Hi everyone, welcome to the Polettirosa Homestead. Well, it's about 6 o'clock in the morning, so of course I have my coffee with me, gotta have my coffee. And I have been asked to do a video on how I save my seeds and organize for the upcoming planting season. So I thought I would do a quick video on how I do it. So what I have is I have a little book here, and I'll show you about the book. I also have my containers that I use, and I'll show you about that. And then I have a photo album, and I'll show you how I use that. So let's get to it. I'll be right back. Okay, so let's start off with my photo album, because that's how I basically started off. When I get a packet of seeds in the mail, I take out my seeds and I place them in a container, and I'll show you that on the next step. And then I have a photo album here, and it allows me, it's got two separate sides to it, and it allows me to put my seeds in this packet. I don't use anything on the back. That way, if I want to look up my cabbage, all I have to do is look on the back and it gives me all my information. Now, in case you notice, I get my seeds from Baker Creek, rareseeds.com. This is a great company. I like them. I think their seeds are a good price. I have grown their seeds before, and sometimes if it didn't work and I got no germination, I can call them up. We'll talk about it, and they send me another set of seeds back out again. If for some reason they don't have the seeds, they give me a credit. And I think that's fantastic. And just to let you know, I do have my previous video. I have a free seed giveaway, and it's sponsored by Baker Creek Seeds. All you have to do is watch the video and then comment, and you have until the 15th of January where I'm going to draw a name. Well, the system is going to randomly draw a name, and whoever wins, there's 18 packs of seeds. And it's a combination of both vegetables, herbs, and some flowers. So get in on that. So what I do is I put my seeds then in these little plastic. Then if I want, I could always turn around and put an index card in the back if I want to write down how it did or something like that. So I have, as you can see, I have many pages of my seeds that I have. Then the next thing I do is I have a bunch. Me and my husband love these from Walmart. You make your drinks with it, and it's sugar-free, low-calorie, and it just makes our water taste a little bit better. I take off all the plastic around it, which it's going to look like this. On the top, I write down what it is, and this one's carrots, and it's my Coyote red carrots. And I place my seeds inside. Depending upon the seeds, carrot seeds are really tiny. So I have these little plastic baggies, and I put them in here. Okay? So that's where I place my seeds. You won't believe what I did. When I was showing you how I do my seeds and I took out my bag of seeds, I can't believe I dumped them. I have seeds on the bottom, so I dumped them all over the table here. Crazy. But I guess we do some stupid things once in a while. Okay, so then I have my seeds in these containers, and it works really good. I have a little container. I have a rolling cart right here, and it's got 3 trays in it, and I'm able to put all my seeds in it. And at the end, maybe what I'll try to do is I'll take a picture of it and put it in. So then I have all my seeds all in those little plastic containers. Works really good. After I'm all done with that, I then turn around and start for my next season coming up. And that's where a little book like this comes in. I started it off with 2023 Seed Starting Guide. And for here I'm in 6B, zone 6B. So my average last frost date is between May 1st and May 10th. So the next page, what I do is I start off with 12 weeks before my first frost date. So that for me is February 15th. And then each page following that would be 11 weeks, which would be February 22nd, 10 weeks, which would be March 1st, 9 weeks, which would be March 8th, and I go all the way down until my last page says 1 week, which is May 3rd. This is what I do, you don't have to do. Then I write one page, 2023 seed starting after frost date. It's just something I do. And then average last frost date, which is May 10th. And then the next page would be week after May 17th. 2 weeks after May 24th. And I go from there. So now I have all my pages labeled. And I start going down looking to see when I'm supposed to plant each seed. So for instance, at 12 weeks, I wrote down onions. After onions, I wrote indoors, which would mean that if you're going to start your onions, the seeds, not the little onion, I can't, all of a sudden I went blank.
Onion sets.
The onion sets, thank you, sweetheart. If you're gonna start from seed, you start them indoors. Onion sets is totally different. And then lavender, you start lavenders indoors. And then after that, I wrote transplant 1 to 2 before, which means you start your lavenders indoors and then you transplant them 1 to 2 weeks before your average frost date. And I'll go over some of the things I write in the book so that if you would like to start something like this, you already have an idea on how many weeks. So at 11 weeks, you start asparagus. You start it indoors and you transplant after your frost date. Parsley is indoors and you transplant 3 to 4 weeks before your last frost date. Where I got these dates was from, I went to the Farmer's Almanac. I went to different sites, Urban Farmer, and then I also took Baker Creek, what they write down. Sometimes on the back of their seeds, they don't write exactly when to start. They'll say after your first frost. So I tried to get a combination of both, and then I pieced them all together. And what I did was, if it says plant 4 to 6 weeks, I turned around and wrote on a separate piece of paper, 4 to 6 weeks, and then I'm trying to not do all of them on the 6th week. So I'll put some on the 4th, some on the 5th, and some on the 6th week, depending upon when I want them to be able to be transplanted. So celery is indoors. Lemon balm is indoors, and you transplant 2 to 3 weeks before your frost date. I forgot to write down celery, so I wasn't able to tell you when to transplant that. 9 weeks before, which for me, if you're 6B, would be March 8th, and that would be eggplant, and you start off eggplant indoors. And again, I didn't write them all down yet. Sage is indoors, and you plant that 1 to 2 weeks before your frost date. 8 weeks would be March 15th, and that would be peppers, and you start that indoors. Basil, again, 8 weeks before, and that would be indoors, and you transplant it after your frost date. 7 weeks, which would be March 22nd, and you could plant loofah, and you then transplant that outdoors, depending upon how big it is, and you would do that after your last frost date, because loofah does not like frost. It doesn't even like the cold. Tomatoes, and again, that's indoors, and you would transplant that after your last frost, and that all depends upon how big they are. Feverfew, now that would be a flower, and that flower you could use for medicinal purposes. You could use the root for teas, all different things. 6 weeks, which here would be March 29th, and that would be cabbage, and you could start that indoors. Lettuce, you start that indoors. And fennel, and that again you would put indoors, and you would transplant it after your last frost date. 5 weeks before would be peas, and peas is definitely direct sowing outdoors. Dill is directly outdoors, and mint is indoors, and you would transplant it 2 to 3 weeks after your last frost date. Dill, some people do start that indoors, but it is not very good for taking it out of the pod and putting it in the ground. It prefers to be directly sown. 4 weeks, which would be April 12th, and that would be broccoli. And broccoli you could start indoors and then transplant it outside. Spinach, direct sow. Swiss chard, direct sow. Now spinach and Swiss, well, I'll get into that later. 3 weeks before, which would be April 19th, and that would be my greens, and that would be my bok choy, my chimjasi, and my tatsoi. Melons, and I was kind of surprised. I'm going to try it this year. It says to do it indoors. You could start them indoors and then transplant them because their roots are very good to be transplanted. So I'm going to try that. I've always done them just directly outdoors. 2 weeks before is April 26th, and that would be carrots, and carrots are definitely a direct sow. And watermelon, again, this was another one because it's a melon. It says you can start them indoors, and then when they grow pretty good, then you just turn around and transplant them outside, and they're very good for transplanting. 1 week before, which would be around May 3rd, sometimes I'm going to hold off. Of course, I just turn around and take my potatoes that any I have left over from the previous year that have nice growth on them. The nice eyes. I directly sow them outside. So I wrote May 3rd 1 week before, but a lot of times I'll wait until the 10th or the 17th, the week after, a couple weeks after. Echinacea. Echinacea is a flowering plant. It's great for medicinal. It's great to make teas. And you would take the green part of the leaves that come out. Then I start to my average last frost date, which would be May 10th. And I do cilantro, coriander, chamomile, and hyssop. And they're all direct sow outside. 1 week after would be my beans, my marjoram, and my zinnias, and they're all direct sows. More or less everything after your last frost date is a direct sow. 2 weeks after would be my corn, and I'm going to try sunflowers this year. I got some chickens for my birthday last year in May, and I hear the chickens love sunflower seeds. So that's what I'm going to do with those. 3 weeks after would be my cucumbers and my squash, and they're direct sows also. And 4 weeks after is calendula. Calendula is another flowering plant, but it's great for medicinal. It's great for teas. And that's pretty much how I do my book right here. What I'm starting on next is actually designing my garden out. I do have a couple raised beds outside, and then I have my cattle panel greenhouse that's got 9 beds in it, so I have to design them, and then my outside garden, which is 48 by 24. So that's all what's coming up next. I just wanted to show you how I organize my seeds, how I write everything down, and I hope that answers the question that a girl named Debbie asked me. If you have any more questions, please feel free to send me your questions, leave me comments, and don't forget to go to my last video and leave a comment. If you don't leave a comment, the system has no way of tracking you and putting you in the random drawing. So thanks again, and thank you to all the new subscribers I've gotten onto my page. I'm hoping you're going to enjoy going on this journey with me, and I hope we have a great year ahead. So thanks again from the Polettirosa Homestead, and I hope to see you again in the future. Bye, everybody.